Hello everybody, I am at Alex&Matteo's office today in the biscuit factory and we're gonna talk about housing sector. Hello guys, how are you?
I'm fine, are you okay?
Very well.
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
How is everything going, literally?
Everything is fine, we're getting busier and busier every day. We hire some new people.
We've got a lot of new things happening at the moment. And I think more than anything as well, we coming into the summer months, it's now going to get a little bit busier for lettings and sales. So yeah, I think we're doing well at the moment and can't complain really.
Everybody's talking about housing prices are rising up a lot. Is it true?
So the prices of the houses and flats rised a lot, particularly outside London, particularly in the north areas and in Wales and in Cornwall as well. In London, yes, prices of houses or particular properties with big outside space are performing very well because of the pandemic, we believe. The standard flats are less popular because people tend, at least up to last month, they tended to go further out. They wanted to stay closer to the coast, closer to the countryside. So for that reason, I believe houses, particularly houses outside London, they became very popular, and also there are many people that are wanting to move out, but there is not much supply. In the last 2 months, Alex and I, we've been very busy in sales here in London because people are coming back.
Yeah.
We see people. We are seeing people coming back.
Funny enough, I actually have a really good friend that is in or living in sort of southeast of London, and he's in around about zone 6 or zone 7. Now, when he's going around, he's actually said to us, he was like, Alex, it has been absolutely crazy for the last probably around about sort of 5-6 weeks, and compared to what it is in London, completely lateral opposite. I think a lot of people are now understanding that they can work from home, and if they can work from home, why do they need to be in central London? Even though the property pricing is going up out of London, the demand of being in London is still there in the first place. Doesn't mean that it's a bad pricing. Doesn't mean that there's nothing there in the first place. All it means is that there's just going to be a bit of fluctuation, and that's it.
So how is the business going? Are you really busy?
We are very busy in sales, as you can imagine. At the end of this month, the stamp duty holiday, we terminate. So we are very busy chasing solicitors at the moment. We have 15 properties that needs to complete this month, so a lot. So it's it's the busiest time in our life as estate agents.
Yeah.
So we are very busy.
You are local agents as well. You just started together and it's now the business is going bigger and bigger.
What is going very well. It is. It really, really is, and I can't complain too much. We've been around for quite some time in sort of southeast. We both have a hell of a lot of knowledge around this area in the first place. Everyone that sort of comes to us, look, I always say my sort of sales technique is normally proof is in the pudding, and it literally is every single time. Look, we know our stuff, we know where to go, we know how it works in the southeast as well. So I think hopefully people enjoy us anyway.
Okay, so we don't know what was happening with the real estate sector. Did they ever shut you down?
During the coronavirus, yeah, they did shut us down, but we didn't let them. No, I'm joking. We had to close down. We had to close down for a month, not even a month. So we didn't suffer at all because, luckily enough, we closed a lot of this before the lockdown, and during the lockdown, people were still allowed to move into the properties that they let months ago. So yeah, we were not as busy as now, of course, but it didn't last it didn't last long.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think, like you said, Matteo, the understanding of what we could and what we couldn't do on the lockdown in the first place was very, very sort of divided. And I think this is why, even though we were all at home and we were all isolating, making sure that everyone's okay in the first place, when we had the second to basically sort of help out other people with lettings and sales and everything else, then my God, we were the first people to do so. So getting those lets in, those were the main things that we could do, and I think we did over lockdown. We did some filming as well, and then we also did a couple more lets as well. I think we did 3 or 4. So look, it wasn't a huge amount, but even though, like, look, it was something that we wanted to do, and we felt we needed to as well.
Yeah, it has been a good opportunity to help the community. We are part of the North Bermondsey support group. We were helping the elderly one with shopping and things like that. So, yeah, we made less money, but it was very rewarding.
We were an agency that was very small, like very small to the point where we only had a couple of properties. But that was never going to stop us in the first place. So what we wanted to make sure of is that when we say on our website, modern, local, friendly, we mean that, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people need to understand. So when it comes to helping out the local community, we always want to make sure, even though we were on lockdown, that we would always do this in the first place.
Also, government is doing lots of helps and they have lots of schemes. What are the current government schemes for helping people to buy a house?
Helping to buy a house. Well, there is the Help to Buy that is allowing people with a small deposit to buy a property. The interest rates are very low still, so it's quite money are quite cheap at the moment. There is the share of ownership.
Sure.
We are not involved with that much, but there is the share of ownership.
Do you mind explaining it to us?
The share of ownership. So if you will do it through the housing association, one of which, like to stay local, L&Q is quite one of the most popular ones. You will buy, for instance, let's say 25% of this property, so you will do a small mortgage rather than do a mortgage on a property of £500,000. You will buy 25% of that property. Of that 25%, part of it will be mortgage. So every month you will pay a mortgage of your 25% property instead of the full amount. Plus we need to pay a rent to the housing association. In the future, when you start to make more money, you're better in your career, you earn more money, you will be able to buy more shares, and until you arrive to 100%.
But I think, sorry, just to add on to this as well, I think one thing that you do have to be very careful of is that, let's say, hypothetically speaking, you buy a property in a very strong market. Or actually say, let's do it the other way around, buy it in a weak market, and then you buy this property on 25% of the weak market. So let's say it was a £500,000 property, let's say you got 25% of that one, so fantastic, not a problem at all. If you want to then buy it again, or buy off the 75% worth, that would be of the market value of what it is right now. So let's say from a weak market, it's then gone into a strong market. You are then going to be, let's say hypothetically, it went up to, 550. You would then be buying that 75% worth of the 550 bracket, not the 500,000. So always, always, always be careful with that one. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a brilliant thing to do. I really, really do. Because you can get on the market ladder, but at the same time, you've really got to be careful on what market you're buying your rest of your share in the first place.
So the Help to Buy is only for the brand new properties, and you buy off plan. So we are involved with a development called the Debt for Landing, for instance. On those properties, you can still do the Help to Buy scheme. We are dealing with a couple of share of ownership as well.
What L&Q or what other kind of property or agencies do out there is they normally give you a certain amount of weeks to go on with them first to see if they can sell the property with them. And then if they cannot sell the property, then they come through agencies. This is why a lot of estate agencies don't really have properties on share of ownership, because normally these other kind of sort of agencies that are sort of just before us, they normally sell the property out before us in the first place. But it's still, we've got one on at the moment, and definitely have a look at it anyway.
They can contact us or they can check online.
Yeah, precisely. Look, we are here. Well, one thing I do want to say as well is that we're here to help out. We're not here to just take people's money. Genuinely, I do mean this, guys. We want to educate people more than anything, because education is key.
Which one is more lucky, the first-time buyer or second-time buyer?
It's completely depending on their situation in the first place. But what I would do is, if I was selling a property myself and I was looking for someone who basically either wanted to invest into the property or either wanted to take on my property in the first place, the ones that I would go for, a first-time buyer. Because the issue is, if you go for a second-time buyer or you go with someone who's actually got a property, you are going to have a chain in that, most likely. Now, it's not all the time, because sometimes they can go cash, or either they can sort of remortgage their property in the first place. But 9 times out of 10, it's normally a longer process. So what I would suggest to a lot of people is go for the first-time buyers.
A suggestion to first-time buyers, what I would tell them is, first of all, is going online, have a look through Rightmove and Zoopla. Now, there are, particularly on Rightmove, you can find, and Zoopla as well, you can find a lot of stats. You can see, if you like one property in particular, you type the postcode in the house search. You can see for how much the property has been sold for, so you can start to have a feel of what there is on the market. And then other important things that I think people don't look at is the exposition. How much light does your property get? Because there are some beautiful houses that maybe have a garden overlooking north that doesn't get any sun.
There's so many different attributes and requirements that people are looking for at the moment that it is good to be able to understand what your wants and what your needs are. But I think one thing that I will zoom back into is that what Rightmove do have, and this is a very, very good tool for us as agencies, but also for a lot of people out there at the same time, is that go on house prices. So property house prices, what you can do is, if you go on there, you type in postcode, type in location, you can see what the prices have gone for, and you can really see what they've gone in the past as well. So you can give you an understanding of what the market is around that location. Now, this is a tool that everyone can use, and I think a lot more people really do need to use it, because if you don't, then you're going to be paying for something that is going to be way too expensive, most likely, because the agency is probably trying to get a bit more for their buck in the first place. The solicitors are something that you always need. One thing I will say though, it's always go on referrals. Referrals is such a good idea. Like, don't get me wrong, obviously agencies, they'll give you good solicitors because they want to get it sorted as soon as. But if you know someone that is a really, really good solicitor, that'll be able to sort this out in 30 seconds flat for you, then go for those ones. That is what I recommend, guys, definitely.
So, we have a problem in London. More than 3.5 years ago, the Grenfell Tower fire, there are still at least 700,000 people living in blocks with dangerous cladding. In SE16, these stories, are you hearing?
What we're now doing at the moment is, now we've got the EWS1 form. Now, the EWS1 form is basically a form that you need to be providing to solicitors to make sure that the cladding is correct in the property in the first place. Now, with these ones, the issue we're facing is that it's very, very difficult to get your hands on this in the first place. So, prime example is that we had a property just in Rotherhithe in very, very nice development, lovely place. We put it on the market, got everything sorted, Nearly got someone as well. We suddenly said, right, do we have the EWS1 form in place? They said, nope. They now need to find it. They found it. They found out that they had, I think it's called like a stage 2 or P2, which basically means that there's external bits, e.g. like balcony they need to change and so on and so forth. We found this out, that it was not going to happen in the next 6 months, most likely. So now we had to take it off the market and they can't sell. So one thing that I do say, guys, make sure that you have the EWS1 form if you have a property in and around this area or over in London in the first place.
Yeah, true. We had many issues because initially they were asking the ESW1 form only for properties with cladding. Now they request it even if you have timber works. Like we sold a property in Barbican that do have a ESW1 form, although the Barbican is one of the most iconic concrete buildings. There is no cladding, but on top of some of the building there is a bit of wood, so they did request the ESW1 form. In addition to that, surveyors are now asking a cover letter to go with the ESW1 form. It's becoming very difficult, and as Alex was saying, there are many people that want to move out. They maybe live in a one bed and they want to expand the family. They are stuck because they are not allowed to sell unless they have a satisfactory ESW1 form. But there are only few surveyors that are qualified.
And
So it's very difficult. There are people waiting for months and some other for years. And even if you get that document, sometimes banks will question it. So is to see, because there has been a scandal of a company that did the issue a ESW1 form. I'm not going to make names of blocks, but there is a block in Rotherhithe that unfortunately used this company that it came out that this company was not qualified, and there is a big legal battle against them now. So there are many people that are stuck with their properties, and the suggestion that we want to give them is just, I'm sorry, but just give up, because there is nothing you can do. You just need to wait.
you just need to wait, or you just need to repair.
You need to repair, but you need to wait for the freeholder to repair. You can't repair it yourself.
Precisely. I think adding on to that, like, look, I'm always a bit of a sort of a silver lining guy, you know. When you say sort of give up on the situation, I wouldn't say give up, but I would say look into different scenarios, you know, look at the end result, see what you want and see where you need to go to and see how long the process will take. Now, look, the process, basically whatever you think the process is going to take or the time that it's going to take, probably double that. I wouldn't be surprised, because if there is works that needs to be done to the property, then get on the case on that. Just start divulging into it, start finding out information, go into, I don't know, like the freeholders, have conversations with them, see where you need to go to, just do some due diligence. That's all it needs to take. And then once you get that going, once you get the ball rolling, then everything else will be sorted out in the first place. But EWS1 forms, like Matteo said, it's not easy. It really, really isn't. But don't give up on what you want.
Can you imagine how many people are stuck with unsafe houses that they're risking their lives to live in those buildings?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy to think that we are in a country, a very developed country, and there are still people risking their life every day living in this high-rise building. Not only high-rise, but buildings that have been built very poorly. You can see with your eyes how poorly some buildings have been built, even in prime locations. Only 2 weeks ago, a building in Canary Wharf went on fire. That beside the economic part of it, this is the biggest problem that we are facing in a country like this.
So today we were in the Alex and Matteo's office in the biscuit factory, and see you in the next one.
Bye.